We are back.
We are back after a little extended summer break.
Yeah, indeed.
Even though, well, hopefully the summer is still gonna,
Full
Yeah.
swing,
full
full
swing.
going.
It was sunny outside.
It's a
It's
lovely
today.
day.
Yeah. Can't say the same of every day this week or this month.
No.
I think it's been better than it's been bad in general this month in terms of weather.
Yeah,
It's been bad. What?
Better.
Better.
Yes, it's
Okay.
been good. It's been
Yes.
better than last year.
Yes.
I mean, for me, I feel like this summer has been better than last year, but I spent 2 weeks of that in Europe in a heat wave. So, like, that's probably like
Yeah.
tainting my judgment
Possibly.
a little bit.
Possibly.
Yeah. Um, oh, should we reintroduce ourselves?
I suppose we should.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of you will know who we are and what we do by now. But if you are new to Behind the Research, then should we start with Seb?
I'm Seb. Hello. I'm a final year PhD student as part of the Samba CDT, which is some PhD program where you do some like Masters of Research here in your first year, and then you do your PhD research phase after that. I'm interested in an area of maths called inverse problems, where you sort of like there's some like quantity of interest you want to get, say like a brain scan, but all you have is some like indirect measurement of it, like I don't know, the MRI scan or whatever, and you want to, given the measurement, try and reconstruct what your quantity of interest is. So I'm looking at classical and a bit of machine learning ways to get a nice image. Yeah, a bit of machine learning spice.
Parmesan.
Exactly. Yeah, that's my bread and butter. Mm-hmm.
I'm Henry. I'm a second year student on the same sort of CDT structure. So I am now approaching 1 year full time research,
Ooh.
which is slightly concerning, but no, and I do fluid mechanics. So specifically, I study the problem of you had like water traveling along a canal, you have a weir, so the like bump at the bottom, which generates waves. I'm studying, well, I'm trying to solve these set of equations to be able to tell you precisely what the amplitude of these waves will be.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I'm Beth, and I think in my head I've decided that I'm a final year PhD student, but I'm actually like the year below Seb.
Mhm.
So technically, I have to say that I am a third year PhD student, given that you've introduced yourself
Oh yeah.
as final year.
Mm.
So I will be going into my final year in like October, and I do mathematical biology and more specifically collective behaviour. So my PhD aims to create some mathematical models to describe the collective behaviour of Trinidadian guppy fish, and they're really sort of like their unique kind of movements. So
Yeah. I always find it weird, well, hard to know whether to say like, oh, I'm like third year PhD or fourth year PhD because of the buffer year at the beginning.
I was trying to describe like my research point to somebody like completely like random, like a person cutting my like the barber I was having a haircut with. And like I was like, oh, I do a PhD. I'm like second year, but I knew this. Like it's hard to like particularly like general members of the public. How do you explain what you do in a way that they understand? Like in terms of like what like what how are you in education? Yes, but sort of not.
yeah, I think generally people know what a PhD is, even if they don't understand what it consists of.
Yeah.
And I mean, a PhD is then so different for whether you could be doing a PhD in like English literature,
Yeah.
which is very different to what we do, or very different to what somebody in like a chemistry or a biology lab might be doing. I think I find that people tend to ask like, how long have you got left? Or like, and I think I would go for like that it's a 4 year program.
Yeah.
Like again, then depending on who they are and how much interest they show, you can go into a little bit more
Yeah.
detail.
I tend to say I've got like 4 years of funding.
Yeah, I think that's a diplomatic
So,
answer.
Yeah. Although I don't appreciate the obsession with people saying, "How long have you got left?"
Like, not in the question mark.
Yeah, and that's why I think I've just accelerated my timeline to say,
Yeah.
like, I'm in final year.
Okay.
Because I'm so used to people just asking me that I'm kind of just going, oh, about a year. And then I'm like, no, like, it is a little bit longer than that. So, yeah.
I say to have a deadline of being finished by this time next year, then you have 2 months of funding you get to do whatever you like with.
Yeah, but then that's more pressure. I don't think I want that. Like, I don't need more pressure. No. Oh.
Nice.
So, have you been up to anything nice so far this summer?
I went. What have I been up to? I went to a conference,
Mm-hmm.
which was very exciting. I presented at a conference which was in Malta,
Lovely.
which I've never been to. And I wasn't fully sure on even where Malta is, but now I know
Okay, good.
decisively so.
Can you describe where Malta is?
So, do you know Italy?
I am aware of
Okay.
the concept.
And if you look at Italy, it kind of looks like a shoe that's kicking a football,
Yes.
and then that football is like just below the football is where Malta is.
Oh, it's even lower.
Yeah. So like if that football is like the size of your fist, Malta might be like the size of like a fingernail or something.
Okay.
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 But that's
I was
where
really
it is.
concerned then that you were just going to tell us that Sicily was Malta.
Oh,
So
danger.
ridiculous.
Mm. So yeah, that was a lovely time. Met a bunch of new people, a bunch of familiar faces as well. Um, and yeah, had people ask some nice questions about my
Mhm.
talk. Lots of networking
Good.
outside
Yeah.
the talk. But yeah, just had a great time. Malta's a
Mhm.
lovely place
Mm.
as well.
Mhm.
Had a nice explore. And like for like the middle day, so it's a week long conference, what 5 day long. And like the middle day was like a dedicated sort of like tourism day where they just took you on like big coaches just around the island to see
Yeah.
like big main spots.
I think a lot of like longer destination conferences tend to have like a half day on the Wednesday.
Mhm. Yeah, I do find it is also just like a very nice sort of like icebreaker, sort of like social activity, like networking opportunity, where you sort of get to know people outside of the academic
Mhm.
sort of setting, to be a bit more friendly. So I always appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. Because you must have been going, I mean, you've been going to conferences in your field now for like the whole of your PhD at
Yeah.
least. So, like, how do you find then going back to them now at the later stages? Do you find that you do know a lot of people and that people remember you if you spoke to them in the
I
past?
definitely do feel like that's the case. I feel like I mainly sort of like end up networking with other PhD students I feel still rather than like academics. But maybe like in later years I have gotten spoken a bit more to the established academics.
Yeah.
But you're just PhDs and like see them time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Those are the people that are the same career age.
yeah,
Those are the people that you're going to be if you stay in academia. You're going
they'll be
they
my
they
colleagues,
yeah,
my
Yeah.
active colleagues.
future collaborators and yeah. So it's good to get to know them.
I agree.
I mean, I think it's just also just easier to be like there's like two different groups of people. You have all the profs and stuff, and then you have a group of people you assume to be PhD students. It's easier just to go up to a group of PhD students and be like, "Oh, hi, I'm
Let's be friends.
yeah," as opposed to sort of just walking up in the middle of like some profs having a
Some full like mini
academic
lecture
on
in the zone.
Hmm. I think we probably have this preconception of like what they're actually talking about, and then it
Yes.
must be really intelligent and like we couldn't possibly follow it. And they're probably just also chatting because they've all grown up together.
Yeah.
This
And
is true.
yeah,
This is true.
maybe not. I
Mm.
don't know. Yeah.
I think it depends on the conference and it
Mm.
depends on the profs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
But you say you gave a talk?
I did
Yeah.
give a talk,
Hmm.
yes, and that went very well. I had people even like standing like outside the door, so like peering in to
That's
see what all the fuss was about, which I'm taking to be a good thing.
hmm.
Um, yeah, but no, well received,
Yeah.
well received.
Standing room only.
Yeah,
That's got to be a good sign.
yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm. No standing ovation though, but
Oh,
we strive, we strive. Okay, that's the ambition.
Yeah.
it's hard to get a sounding ovation.
Oh, we just need the ambition to do this, I feel.
I think maybe if you did like a backflip at the end,
Well,
something
okay.
like backflip and then into the last slide with the conclusions. It's like so, and that might yeah.
I'll contemplate this.
What will your next talk be? Will it actually be your Vibe your next talk?
Yes, I suppose it will be.
Oh, no.
Can do a backflip during
Yeah,
it.
just at the end of it, just end of it. Like any questions they say no, you just do a backflip and then walk out.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anything else? Any other holidays or?
Any holidays? Have I done any actual holidays? Not really.
Mm.
No, I should have, and I will need to.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just feel like I'm at the end of my PhD, and it's like, oh yes, I need to like write a thesis thing and I have things yet to do. And I told my supervisors that I want to hopefully submit by this day, so that requires getting stuff done by then. And so I just don't really feel like I should be having a break, even though I am entitled to be having a break.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably the biggest hypocrite if I tell you that you should have a holiday when I'm not also doing the good job of taking one myself. But like, I think then there is an element of when you're at a certain point in your PhD, if you also feel like you need to just work, like as long as you know yourself, like if you're going to burn out or not. So if you would rather just say, I'm just going to plow on and get through the next sort of couple of months or whatever it is, and then have a break at the other side. But I think there's also there's like swings and roundabouts.
Yeah.
Like as long as you take it with a pinch of salt. Yeah. What about you, Henry? Anything exciting
I
over the
think
summer?
so. I don't remember. It was in April, so I think I did talk about a conference I was in April. But no, so summer we had obviously a Samba conference, Samba Summer Conference, which
Yes.
I helped organise, which was good. I think that went over well. I think people enjoyed themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
I think there was some good good people presented some research. I think what I was most concerned about is if you mucked up like the dietary requirements, dietary restrictions,
Okay.
and we poisoned somebody. That didn't
dear.
happen.
Okay, good. Let's celebrate this.
Organising a conference, sure, like things could go wrong. If there's like some AV technical issue, like people expect that to happen, that's fine. If you actually like muck up, the dietary like requirement stuff, that's when like you actually have made an error. The conference could do anything else as long as we haven't killed anyone. It's been a success.
Always,
But
yeah,
I
a
think
good goal to
it's
have.
I mean, I can tell you about one of the conferences I've been to where I think if you even consider the dietary requirements, then you're doing something
Okay,
wrong.
yeah,
So it's like if you did everything that you could, then even if it's then on catering that mess up,
Oh,
like
yeah,
it's not ideal.
yeah,
But if you've considered everything,
yeah. I mean, but I think I don't know. Just from my set to organising one, it was just like as long as we've done this, the talks can somebody's talk can blow up or do something strange. But as long as we've catered to everyone's needs, then it's going to be a successful conference. But no, that was good. I've got a conference coming up in September. The first conference I'll give a talk at.
Oh my goodness.
I get to talk at the Summer conference, but like the first like external.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. You've got, I suppose, no, you like a year in. It's probably like a good time for you to be giving a talk.
Yeah.
So
How similar to the Samba talk?
So the Sam
would it be?
half of it's the same. So a bit of
Okay.
a Samba Summer conference was like I did like some background. And I was like, here are some results, and here's some like stuff which I will be presenting. And so the bit which I've now got and working through is now really like a few weeks of what results do I have to get done in a few weeks for it. But I'm excited. Just come back from holiday. I'm still technically on holiday currently. My out of office comes off my email at 4 o'clock this afternoon. I'm going to check it until 4.
Perfect. Very good.
Although also maybe don't check them at 4 o'clock.
Yes, that's true.
First like it was 27 hours. It was like you wanted to like in time for it to turn off. I said 4.
Okay.
No, I'm definitely not check my emails.
Yeah.
Until tomorrow.
No, until Monday.
Monday.
Maybe.
I'm terrible for it though. I think it's just out of habit. Like I don't have notifications for my emails on my phone. But I think because I'm just so in the habit of like it's something that I do kind of when I wake up in the morning, like before I even got to the office, I kind of check like my personal emails, so I check my work emails.
Interesting.
So I think even at the weekend, it might get to like lunchtime, but I'd be like, oh, I haven't checked my emails today.
I get notifications for all my so I have seen all my university emails which I have been getting. I've just not opened them in the app.
Okay. That's the start. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I like to have notifications on my phone, so I could have turned off that.
Do we need somebody to come in and teach the behind the research team how to have a holiday?
Maybe.
Which is actually either A, taking one in the first place, or B, not checking it meant to be on holiday.
No, but always was a nice holiday. Went back, saw my parents. It was nice.
Okay, just had some time at home. Yeah.
Literally did nothing.
Oh.
We were like initially planning we're like, oh yeah, my dad and my mum both took like time off from work. It's like, oh, we're gonna have it like, we should do some like nice little day trips and stuff. And it got to time we were like, no, we were just like, you don't.
Yeah, just feel like that happens whenever you try and
So everyone was like, yes, they were planning like going on a big road trip. And was like, do we want to go there? It's nice weather here, so we just sat outside.
Fair.
Mhm.
Very fair.
Yeah. Where is the conference in September then?
Conference in September, Swansea.
Oh, nice. Oh, is that the UK
UK,
FN?
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Just this.
UK Fluids Network.
Cool.
So I'm going to go and scare a whole bunch of engineers
Oh.
with scary,
Oh,
scary-looking mathematics.
There are other mathematians there as
Yeah.
well, though, right? So it's like,
Everybody else in my group. So
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So my synthesizer's giving a talk. Josh Elson of postdoc in our group's also
Mhm.
giving a talk. So it'd be so funny if they just give us a mini symposium and it's just our talk.
Oh.
It's just a Beyond All Orders asymptotic talk. It's just us.
Oh.
But I guess the fact that you say there's going to be engineers there, it's
Yeah.
quite across. It's meant to be quite
It's a very
interdisciplinary.
interdisciplinary.
Yeah.
I will almost certainly be the purest person.
Okay.
Okay.
I went to another engineer-dominated talk earlier in the year, and it's quite interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, there'll be a load of people doing, just big simulation stuff.
Yeah. Are you gonna like phrase your talk to be appropriate for like engineer people?
I'm sort of waiting until they send us the final schedule
Mm-hmm.
to see where they put me in like the
Okay.
conference
Just to
programming.
gauge.
Because because a lot of times these conferences there's lots of parallel sessions, they title them. So if it's a parallel session titled about Beyond All Orders asymptotics, I'm going to assume people in that talk are going to know the basics.
Yeah.
If they put me in a general like physics wave problems talk,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to have to present in a very different way.
I suppose you could always put like a cut-off point in your presentation where you say, if you aim to say like keep people that aren't familiar with it like halfway
Yeah.
through,
Mm.
so that hopefully like if you make all the basics accessible, then you can tell people kind of like feel free to tune out for the
Yeah,
next bit. But then if they can come back in for the results, just
Yeah.
having understood
I'm
the
also
basics.
not actually sure about how long the talk is either. I'm
Okay.
assuming it's 15 plus 5 because it's a big like multi-day parallel session conference.
Yeah.
I don't think you would ever go shorter than 15 plus 5 minutes for questions.
No, I think be prepared for it to be. It could be 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah,
depending.
yeah.
They're usually 20 to 25-minute slots. It's what
Yeah,
I've found,
yeah.
but
Mm.
I don't know about. Yeah.
Usually that kind of time
Yeah.
frame.
Yeah.
I usually find like when I give talks, I sort of take the title of the mini symposium to be almost like a willingness to learn and an
Yeah.
actual assumed knowledge.
Oh no, true. But yeah, but I think
Depending, of course, on the context of the
Yeah.
actual like conference itself.
yeah, I think 100% willingness to learn, but also if you're in a group of other people who are sort of in similar fields, presenting similar style of research, you can, so hopefully also if you're not the first one, you can assume they'll introduce all the complex stuff for you.
Mm.
But no, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I've got no idea. I kind of actually need to find out.
But then again, a mini symposium is different.
So
Because-
it'll be a contributed talks
Yes.
section because I've
So-
not been invited.
In a mini symposium, it's like you have an organizer who invites speakers, and the point is that the organizer collects them on a theme.
Yeah.
Whereas, like you say, if you're just applying to give a talk, then you could be. So, like one of the conferences that I was at, I was put in a session which was originally just ecology.
Oh,
So that's
gosh.
really broad.
Yeah.
Then there are obviously speakers dropped out and they had to reschedule things. So then they changed the session that I was in to ecology and metabolic networks, which basically meant that there was 2 ecology talks and 2
Okay.
metabolic networks talks. Then even then, ecology was like quite a wide term for what I was speaking about. And then the other person giving an ecology talk just didn't show up.
Oh no.
So it ended up being 2 talks on metabolic networks and then me.
Oh.
Yeah, that happened a couple of like the 2 conferences that I went to over the summer. I think even the other one, the title was originally quite like the title of the contributed session was quite for what I was talking about and the others. But then I think again there was confusion where a couple of people ended up dropping out, somebody else hopped in at the last minute,
Okay.
and I ended up giving a talk that was just completely different to the other 2 in the session. So I think when that sort of thing happens, you shouldn't.
Yeah, I've got no idea. The only thing I need to know is what day I've got my talking because I'm having to travel from Newcastle to Swansea because I'm in Newcastle on a Sunday.
Whoa.
The conference starts on the Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you can email them and see if there's anything they can
Oh,
do
yeah,
to like not put you up until the Monday afternoon. But
It'll be exciting. But so yeah, I think that's almost excitement for some.
yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. You mentioned some conferences.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, after the SAM conference,
Mm-hmm.
that was like my practice run. So again, it's like a friendly environment, giving my talk at the SAM conference, and then the week after that, I went to Vienna,
Ooh.
and then the week after that, we went to Spain. So there was a
Ooh.
conference in Toledo, which is
Okay.
just south of Madrid, and then we had like a couple of days in Madrid. Then after that, so
Nice.
it's like I've kind of had a holiday. I have had like bits of
Mm-hmm.
holiday. Like, we tagged on a couple of days in Vienna, and then had a couple of days in Madrid after the conferences.
Yeah.
So it's like I had 2 weeks away, like 2 little mini breaks in that.
But equally, it's like you wouldn't have travelled back to the UK for those 2 days anyway.
Exactly.
It's hard,
Yeah.
like, it's mentally hard to like. I definitely been a thought of doing this between conferences, like, oh, I'm not going to travel back home for like these days, so it's going to be holiday, but it's really still not holiday.
Yeah, like you
Con-
don't fully
Yeah,
switch off, I guess.
conferences are so exhausting anyway. You need
Mm.
like 2 days after a conference just to
Yeah.
become a human being.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, although I did enjoy them. So they were both math bio.
Okay.
The first one was specifically mathematical models in ecology and evolution.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very much more, I guess, again, like there was a lot more kind of like animal movement and behavior and like evolutionary dynamics and like disease spread and disease evolution and that sort of thing. And then the second one was just the European Conference for Mathematical Biology.
Oh, right.
So that was completely
Very
broad. Like there was a lot of talks on like cancer research at that one. Um, so again, sort of interesting, but less that was relevant to me.
Okay.
So the first week, I think they definitely happened the right way around. Like the first week was kind of my not high intensity because it still didn't feel too bad, but that was when I was like going to more of the sessions.
Mhm.
And then the second week, it was like actually no, I'm just gonna take some time
Yeah.
out. There's nothing that is super interesting in this session, so I'm gonna go and find a cafe and sit and do a little bit of work,
Yeah.
just check on my emails and that sort of thing. So yeah, it was nice. Yeah,
And how did you find like the places themselves?
they were really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, Toledo was hot,
Oh, I can
so
imagine.
like Vienna, we were there and that was about 32 degrees,
Ooh.
which is hot.
Yeah.
But then by the time you spent a week in that,
Yeah.
you kind of got used to it.
Yes.
Then we got to Toledo and that was, I think, the highest we had there was 42.
Oh my goodness.
Which was just
Cool.
yeah. So then when they're giving you 3-course meal and wine at lunchtime,
Oh.
and then you're sitting for talks
No.
in the afternoon and you're just falling asleep,
Oh,
like
no.
felt like apologising to the speakers, being like, "I'm so sorry, I am paying
Like having
attention."
your siesta hour.
Yeah, it was the siesta, which was
I'd advocate for this.
yeah. But no, so the first conference academically was really interesting, organisationally. As I said, if you've considered somebody's dietary requirements, then you don't have to worry.
Oh no.
If you're not feeding people at all, then there was no lunches, there was no conference dinner was booked for a lovely venue,
Mhm.
admittedly.
Yeah.
That was booked for like 4 miles out of the city.
Ah, good.
And they suggested that we hike there.
Oh,
I mean,
not everyone's cup of tea.
No. So that was a little bit like kind of gave me ideas of like how I wouldn't organise
Yeah.
a conference in the
Just good
future.
things to
Yeah,
keep in mind.
yeah. But then the next week was like felt like you were just being like lavishly treated like a princess in comparison. So
Nice.
yeah.
it's funny it was the other way around. You feel like sort of the second conference sounds bigger. The bigger conference would actually be, slightly less well organised and a smaller, more intimate conference.
No, again, maybe so, but then I think because it is smaller and more intimate,
Yeah.
they kind of they don't maybe have as much money going into it, that sort of thing. So the second conference had like government backing and that sort of thing. It was really prestigious for the fact that it was the first time it had been held in Spain.
Ah.
So they were like really excited and very keen and like wanted to promote it. So that was nice. Yeah. But like as I say, had like 2 little mini breaks, but no further plans to have a holiday. I think I was thinking about it in September, and then to be honest, I think I got back from 2 weeks of travelling, and I was just like, no, I don't want to go on a plane again. I want to be in one place
Yeah.
for longer than 10 days at a time.
Valid.
Yeah. So maybe later in the year.
I think I'll definitely take another holiday in September. I think a
Mm.
week in September at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And how did your talks go at the conferences?
They went well.
Yeah.
Like mean, I can't argue with the fact that my talk went well at the Samba conference.
You won.
I know, that's why I can't argue. So I won the prize for the best talk at the Samba
Very.
conference. But I personally, like, I wasn't super pleased with how it went, just because I felt like I'd rushed it,
Mhm.
and I knew there was bits that I'd forgotten to say. So it was like, but at the end of the day, that was my practice. So then, the next two talks, I feel like they went better each time.
Nice.
And then the first conference in Vienna, my talk was on the first day.
Okay.
So it was like, I think most of the conference then happened afterwards. And I hadn't realised that a couple of the plenary speakers were in my talk.
Really?
And then so one of them gave their talk later that day,
Yeah.
and then the other gave their talk either I think it was the next day. And so two of the plenary speakers then mentioned me by
Oh
name
my goodness!
in
Wow.
their talks,
Surreal.
which is
Oh my goodness.
who are you? Just there sneakily at the back. So that was quite nice. Like,
Yeah.
it was nice to sort of get that. It's like a different kind of recognition, like the fact that I've clearly said something that they've thought is worth
Mhm.
saying, and so that's quite nice.
Very exciting.
Yeah. So I cannot now argue with the
Yeah.
fact that the talks didn't go, because I think it's fair to say they did.
I feel like everything you present, you always notice, like, oh, I missaid that.
Of course, yeah.
But, like, equally, as an audience member, you have no idea what they were intending to say. It's not like, they send you the script first, everyone has to
Yes.
submit a script.
Yeah.
Mm.
Cool.
Mm.
Yeah. I know, like, at like a recent conference that I attended, like one of like the PhD students was like giving a talk, and like I'd actually read their work already, so I made sure to go up and be like, oh, great talk. I've actually read this paper, your work already.
Yeah, I think we know that we appreciate that as PhD
Yeah,
students.
yeah.
So then, it was quite nice. The second conference, somebody came up to me afterwards and said that they taught a math bio module in their university, and that part of what I was talking about, they said, is what they teach. But then they say that the methodology there can't be used in every case. So what we found in our paper that I was presenting on was like an alternative methodology.
Oh, wow.
So then he basically said that he was like, I'm going to give them your paper as like an extra reading for like, this is your course work.
And
But what happens if you want some extra reading to go and find out what happens in it? So again,
Oh
that
my
was quite
goodness.
nice.
So he turns your like paper into the coursework questions.
Like,
In that case, I apologise doing that content. Like, whatever, please don't email me. Fully understand.
I do wonder like how much that actually happens, like courseworks that are set, whether it's just like, I don't know, a lecturer just reads some rogue paper and it's like, yes.
I think a lot of time they turn, at least in my experience of like the few big courseworks I ever did, was like they did just turn their like paper they'd written into the coursework questions.
Yeah. I mean, I've had that. So one of my final year exams.
Mm.
So my final year exams at undergrad were all during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to like massively rethink how they were going to do them. And they basically turned them into like open book exams where we had like a few days to do them because they made them sort of bigger and more in depth. And they were meant to go above and beyond what we'd been taught in the course because they were open book. So then one of my lecturers, who was also my personal tutor, remembered him saying, like, we got the online lectures had all been pre-recorded, so we got access to those as well while we were doing the exams. And I remember him dropping just something in one of his lectures about, like, oh, I wrote a paper on this, such and such, and it was really interesting, like, and he just gave the name of the paper as an off, like, an off sort of a thought. And and then our exam question was on this paper.
Goodness.
And I don't know whether he'd done that on purpose or whether he'd completely forgotten that he'd like actually said about that. So I just went and found his paper, which had all the answers to the exam question in it.
Wow.
And because it was open book and I cited it, and he gave he had no choice but to give me 100% on this question because I just cited the answers from his own paper.
It's incredible.
I think that's complete. Like I think 100%. I would be surprised if he didn't realise what he was. I think they do it so that if you're going to have paid attention, wrote down the name of his paper,
Yeah.
you're going to probably be a first student anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless of if you then like look, if you've gone for effort, you're probably getting a strong grade anyway. So it doesn't actually matter if you find the paper or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose so. But that always amuses me
Mhm.
because it clearly does happen that they use them for like coursework questions and stuff, but maybe not exams.
It's better than one I had. It was like again a similar thing. Like you have an open book exam, but instead of like actually setting questions as basic as a numerics one, it was just manually go through the algorithm for like these matrices. This is the question, which was terrible.
Mhm.
Oh, God.
Mhm.
You only 5 by 5 matrix multiplication for.
Oh, no. Yeah, I remember like in my first year undergrad, like for like the discrete maths and like computing like course, like there was like, a lot of like
XX10901.
there was some MATLAB coursework that you did during the semester, and then at the end there was only the exam. And one of the exam questions was like writing MATLAB code,
Yeah,
and I like completely cleansed everything about MATLAB from my head. So I was like, I don't know what to do. What's a syntax?
Yeah.
What do I even do this algorithm? No idea.
Was like with stuff like this code is wrong. Why is it wrong?
No.
I don't know.
Yeah. Right. What time are we on?
Hot sauce.
Should we have a little break?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little one. Yeah.
Come back and
Talk about
talk
something.
about PhDs.
Yeah. All right. Stay tuned. We'll just be a few minutes.
Yeah.
Hello,
We're
welcome back.
Hello.
Hopefully you use that break wisely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stretched your legs.
Had a short holiday.
Yeah.
Went to a conference.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we should talk about the elephant in the room.
Or not in the room.
Yeah, not in the room.
The elephant in France.
Yes.
Yes. Matt is still here with us in spirit. So Matt is actually on a research visit at the minute, isn't he?
Yeah, so as part of his PhD is, I think, part funded by the French Atomic Institute.
I know the acronym is CEA.
Yes.
So it's like if you want to find out a little bit more about CEA, they were one of the partners at the ITT, the Integrative Think Tank that we videoed and vlogged, which is on our YouTube. And I think Matt's project came from that
Yes.
think tank. Yeah. So,
and as part of it, I think each year of his PhD, will spend 3 months in France.
Okay. That's quite a long time, like in total. Like that's like nearly a year of your PhD. But
CEA, the translation to it is the French Alternative Energies and Atomic Energy Commission.
And what's that in France?
I can't see it. Oh, it's oh no. Commissariat à l'énergie atomique.
Okay. Which is the C? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. That's pretty
French person, but
let's not consult any.
Anybody is watching that speaks good French, then
I apologize.
or maybe tell Seb if you did a good job. Yeah. So we can hear all about Matt's adventures when he gets back.
Yes.
Which will be
in the
like
future.
next month or something.
Yes.
After.
Yeah. No, he'll be definitely back in September. He's kind of like, I think it was a shorter one this time.
Okay.
I think there's some like logistical hurdles because he needed to get like properly vetted by the French government.
Okay.
Oh.
Because it was dealing with like sensitive nuclear information.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's definitely an experience to like. I think if you've got the opportunity to do something like that during your PhD.
He's been in Paris for paid for accommodation over the Olympics.
Well.
Yeah, rather him than me.
Yeah.
Although, is he paying for it?
No, it's all paid for by them. Yeah, he's got paid for accommodation.
Yeah.
I wonder how selective Matt was in the dates of the visit, or if it just literally just coincidence.
I think it was just coincidence.
Yeah.
I think he would have gone earlier if he could have.
Mm-hmm.
To avoid it.
And not to whatever, I think so he doesn't have to get back time and more time to write his confirmation.
Right, yeah.
He's going to have like 2 weeks to write his confirmation or something.
Yeah. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. We have faith in him. But yeah, anyway, so Matt will be back at some point.
Yes. He might even be here now, probably not. Team chat? No.
In that case, Matt, what are you doing? Why is watching behind the research not your priority? No, you're forgiven. I think, shall we talk a little bit about
Here we
how
are.
PhDs are going?
Academicness.
Academicness.
Yes.
That sounds like a score that you'd have on like a top trump.
Oh. Yeah.
Come on, in one.
No.
We'll go for max out like the vibes score.
Maybe that'd be like a fun personal thing to do with all the people you meet at conferences. Like start making your own top trumps for everyone.
Make Sam the top trump.
I think Sam and Top Trumps
Yeah.
is an amazing idea.
Yeah.
In theory, but it's such a
Dangerous.
horrendous idea in principle.
Yes, agreed.
Why?
Well, I think
ranking.
I think ranking people.
What if people set their own?
Okay,
Okay.
no, that's fine.
If you could decide on like what the category that
Yeah,
should be,
this is.
and then people either set their own or like we get people's input. We could do behind the research Samba top trumps. Next Samba conference, they need to do Samba top trumps.
Fantastic.
That cohort is just crazy enough to attempt.
Yes.
This is true.
That was
I
great.
think that'd be one hell of a way to create some
And
drama.
then if you get the Susie card, then it just blows everything else up. So Susie just trumps all. Yeah.
So academics.
Yes, yeah. I think you get a good idea of how our PhDs are going by the fact that we do anything to not talk about them. To procrastinate.
Shall I start?
Word Numplex in the chat asks, what are you guys talking about? Just want to catch up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty much.
Yeah, we're talking about how our PhDs are going. We're all PhD students at the University of Bath, on the Samba CDT, which is a Centre for Doctoral Training. So we run this group called Behind the Research, and every month we tend to do sort of guest interviews. So we will get in either a PhD student or a member of staff and just have a chat about their academic journey, with the idea that we kind of break down any walls and show that academia is for everyone. But then occasionally we also do these team catch-ups. So we're just chatting about how our PhDs are going and what we've been up to this summer. So if you just tuned in, then we're just gonna talk about how they're going now, and all things PhD. So yeah, Henry, do you wanna? Should we start with you?
I think generally, I think it's starting to like pick up speed. I feel like I'm starting to like actually know what I'm doing. Like sort of like 7 months is like really slow progress, and over the summer, things have started to work. I'm now getting paranoid when like I get a good result or something like this, and you get expected values like, oh no, what am I not? What if like finding out what I'm actually doing, some like calculations and actually dividing stuff, which is good. I'm getting good results, but it's also like, oh no.
But then I suppose it's building up that trust in yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like you need to learn to trust that what you've done is right.
Oh
and
yeah.
that it's got good results.
There's definitely some like slight paranoia I have, like what happens if it turns out in like 2 months, but actually this is fundamentally wrong. So I have faith. My supervisor seems to agree with my results, so I have faith that things are going well. So yeah, sort of next big thing is next couple of weeks is to work out exactly what I'm going to say at conference speaking at in beginning of September. Generate those results, write a talk, give a conference, and then I think hopefully starting to block out a paper, which will be good.
Exciting.
My personal like sort of hope would be to like have some kind of paper by Christmas.
Okay.
Or at least like have all the results in a paper. Not necessarily
know
what the story is, have things blocked out. Maybe not have everything completely written, but like have a shape of the paper ready, because then I'll be in the new year prepping for my confirmation.
Yeah, I think that's a good
So
place to be at.
so hopefully having like paper around just means it's going to be a lot less stressful asking the confirmation to be as opposed to like, oh yeah, here will be the results from like the paper.
What is confirmation?
Confirmation is basically like it's almost like a bit of a test you do halfway during through your PhD funding. It is different depending on institution and on course, but in principle, I think everyone in this country will do some kind of information where it's just the university ensuring we've done work and that there's enough work for us to be doing to continue the research. is sort of what it is on paper. But practice in Samba is we write about 30 to 50 page reports on our current work, and we'll give a viva, which is like a sort of an interview with a set of academics where they sort of you talk about your research, they ask you questions and stuff. Yeah, and you hopefully pass that.
Yeah. I mean, like I think it sounds like a scary thing. I told myself up until the point of I think doing the Viva, I was telling myself that it was even though I was kind of stressed trying to get it all written and get it submitted, I was very much like, no, this isn't meant to be like a friendly check-in. This is
Yeah.
not a scary thing. And then having to do the presentation, that became the scary thing. But it's like by that point, the bulk of the work is done. Like for me, it's just I think I haven't given a presentation in a long time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think if you can even if you've got a document that you just start, like you say, if you're starting to populate a paper document with
Yeah.
results and stuff, then if that's already, even if it's not written to a full draft,
Yeah.
it's very easy to then copy and paste those sort of things into confirmation.
I'm not super concerned about it because I know that like even if I was like to present, but even though I did no more new research until thing, I had enough stuff to like populate like a background and like preliminary calculation document. I want to be like, yes, I've actually solved this first problem as part of my. This is the first problem we set out to solve, and it has been solved. I'm going to now solve something else.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think that's good. Like, if you've got one big chapter that is like this is like very nearly completed, and we're writing it up, and then if your second chapter is just these are all my ideas.
Yeah, I think very much my PhD will probably be 2 or 3 related problems, not one big problem. Well, we'll find out. Maybe come back in 2 years' time. Like, they're still the same problem. But yeah, no, I think from 7 months of struggling with the PhD, I feel like finally I'm starting to get some more momentum behind me,
Yeah,
which is nice.
Celebrate this.
Yeah, it's just kind of what I was like mentally set out for the beginning of the year. I was like, okay, if I'm not going to panic in like in October. I was like, I'm not going to panic if I get to June, July, and I've not really made any progress. It's fine to take 9 months to build up into it. But yeah, I was like, finally got to the summer and things started to happen quite quickly. So it does feel like finally I'm starting to make some progress.
And do you think that was again just a more of like a workflow thing, or do you think that was a personal thing in the sense that you started to trust yourself a little bit more, and so you got a bit more confident? And
I think,
or was it just the case that it was difficult to start with?
I think it's I don't know. It's hard to know. Like I don't know. Like I think the area of maths I do, particularly, is called beyond all orders asymptotics. It's incredibly niche, incredibly technical, and is not like it's not really like any like here's the big textbook on how you do this method.
Yeah.
So it's very much like we actually, my supervisor obviously knows what he's doing. It was good that there's like maybe only a handful of people in like the world who do these methods. So it's a bit like, well, yeah, it's harder to like get into. It's not like my supervisor be like, here's a textbook, read this textbook, and over these 2 months, and then do the problem. It's a bit like we're not actually sure how to like approach certain bits of it, which is so it's been a bit of a learning exercise. I think we had some like code issues, which we now mostly solved.
We do have an interesting question from chat, which is I've always wondered about the value of pursuing a PhD versus conducting independent research on my own. Isn't it possible to work and research independently, build skills, and achieve results at my own pace? It might take longer, but I can keep my job. The main difference I see with a PhD is the formal designation it provides. Am I missing something?
I would say I think everyone's situation is different, and the bit of stuff I find interesting to look at is different. I think if you don't have any support from an institution, the institution, like as much as like we do it full time, but the institution fundamentally gives us access to a pool of money which we wouldn't have to supply to access papers. Primarily, like it's even papers. If you didn't have, so for the university, you get access to all the major paper publishing, and if you didn't have this resource, papers are exceptionally expensive to get hold of.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a benefit of institutional access, but it's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I also think that like doing a PhD sort of provides like a pipeline that gets you towards like knowing what like good research is and like what the current field is because you have a supervisor and like you use their knowledge of like several years of doing research of knowing what is like the forefront, what are interesting problems to be working on.
Mhm.
And this, doing a PhD sort of provides like an informed guidance towards, getting into that position yourself. Whereas if I was entirely on my own, even if I could access, all of like the new papers, I couldn't. It would definitely take like a lot longer without like the guidance of like a
Yeah.
supervisor as to get to knowing what research is
Mhm.
about, what good research is.
But then I think that's like the viewer said that
Mm.
that's a personal preference. Like if you accept the fact that it's going to take longer, and I mean we prefer to have that
Yeah.
Mm.
supervision, and like I'm like no, I want somebody to hold my hand. You're going to take me through this. But there are a lot of PhD students that are very independent
Yes.
and don't rely on their supervisor like an awful amount. So I think if you're that way inclined, then there's probably nothing to stop you from doing research. I don't know how it works in terms of getting things published.
I
So you can publish on Archive.
You can publish an archive. Archive is just basically a big repository that anyone can essentially just put stuff up on, and just it exists.
Yeah.
I think in theory you could publish in a journal. You don't need a sponsor or anything to publish in a journal. You just send your article into a
Again, it depends on the
journal.
access.
Yeah,
If you can pay the fees, I'm not quite sure how it works because I suppose I've never considered it
yeah.
before.
There are other bits too. We don't. So we're all full time, but there is part time PhDs exist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are other routes to funding. Whereas if and being more independent and maintaining a job or whatever is important to somebody considering PhDs. There is part-time PhDs exist and aren't exceptionally common, but there's a few people in the department who do them.
Yeah, and they seem to like it for the
Yeah,
reason that they can keep their job and then
Yeah.
they can also do this. I think do they do it like one day a week? It works out, but then they kind of I think there's a couple of people I'm thinking of
yeah,
that kind of come in for like 2 weeks every month or every two
yeah.
months or something, where they do kind of their PhD work in like a block every now and again. Um,
Yeah. I just think like, by having like people that are already in like the academic bubble with like established like work and contributions, like being able to like associate your work in part with them, sort of like, provide some innate almost like validity to it, which shouldn't necessarily be like a good thing. But I think it is the case that if you were some single author paper on archive and you haven't done any previous work and no association with anyone,
yeah.
it'll be somewhat. There are definitely a lot of people that wouldn't take it completely seriously at first glance.
Yeah. I think I would take something like that with a pinch of salt. But again, that's partly because I'm as a junior researcher, I wouldn't know enough to sort of trust whether the research was good or not. A senior academic might be able to read something like that and take it on face value
Yeah.
for it being good work.
You do definitely hear of stories of, for want of a better term, like independent researchers or recreational mathematicians who do find these things. These do like there are definitely stories of people finding these unique and interesting results. I think it depends on the field. So we're all, as part of our CTT, so this is the program on above, we're all applied mathematicians, which sort of means that we have like a bit more of a problem we're sort of trying to solve. And I'd have no idea personally for me how I would have gotten into solving this sort of very niche problem with the niche methods I do without, the university, without like going through sort of academic pipeline and finding this problem to solve it. I think you do get a lot of in sort of slightly more popular mathematics, you do get a lot of sort of independent people finding interesting results. It doesn't take a lot of being in going on videos or essays of people who find results online. I think Numberphile occasionally highlights people who do these. There are Numberphile is a mass outreach channel. So there's definitely a space for independent research and stuff. It does definitely happen. I just think, for better or worse, academia is I think it would be very difficult to navigate without the guidance of somebody already in academia. I think it could work. I think it could work as independent. You were in contact with a prof at a university who you like in fairly regular collaborating with. It doesn't have to be a formal PhD.
But I think for somebody, if they did want to keep their job and they didn't want to give that up, but also have that interest in research, I do think that's where a part-time PhD
Yeah,
could be useful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I say so the benefits are a strong network, a well-informed curriculum, and a good mentor. I'd say primarily yes. Yes, I do understand the benefits. I believe networking actually addresses most of the issues. I probably agree with that. I think it's
Mm.
mainly like a networking thing and like having access to this like networking sort of opportunities, like
Yeah.
the conferences.
Actually, you can go to a conference without being affiliated
Yeah.
anymore.
Yes, but I think it's mainly like having the financial ability
Yes.
to
Yeah.
attend would be the
Which
next
is
level.
what we get through the
Yes,
PhD.
Yes.
yes.
But then if you've got a job and you've got the money
You
to
can,
pay for the conference
Yeah.
anyway, then
yeah, you can attend.
yeah, yeah.
I would hope that there is like some like grants or some funding opportunities out there for the more independent.
Yeah.
I'm trying to know to foster
All
like
of
a nice
West London.
inclusive,
I mean,
you know,
so
working environment.
for this is not. So I went to a conference on like sort of mass communication, um, and they had again mass communication was a lot more. It's been like outside way. So there's a lot of like there was funding available to people who weren't in academia, couldn't get funding for anything else,
Mhm.
but were interested in going because they're interested in mass communication in general, or like so they did have like funding to support people who to go to these things, but I don't necessarily know if funding then exists in like the more sort of academic focused
Mhm.
maths conferences. There is funding there, but a lot of times it's like you have to apply, you have to give your supervisor, you have to give like a list of papers you've contributed to.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. And you also ask, is it a good idea to skip a master's degree and go straight into a PhD, or is it just a significant risk and a recipe for failing?
I don't necessarily see anything wrong with it. I think the difficulty is a lot of programs essentially require you to have a master's.
Mm. Well,
I'm not sure. I think it.
It,
I
in
think it's
this,
mainly like having experience in doing like your own sort of research
Yeah.
is very desirable.
But then if you've done that independently, so
Yes.
like say like if you've got a BSc and then went into work but carried on doing independent research, I suppose for me doing the masters was kind of that confirmation of like, yes, I'm enjoying this. This is what I want
mm,
to do. So yeah, it kind of then if you've already got that, then you don't need to do the masters to kind of know what research is like.
Hmm.
But I don't. I mean, that's where something like a CDT comes in, which is like a centre for doctoral
yeah,
training, which is what we're on, and we do a master's as part of our first year. So I think Samba, I think I'm correct in saying that they
it,
it's not the end of the world if you don't have a
no.
master's because
So
you come in
there's definitely a handful of people who don't have
Yes.
a master's going into it.
so you come to a CDT and you get a master's in your first year anyway. So I think it's kind of
Yeah,
less of a prerequisite for something like that.
but there's also definitely people I know of who have been turned down because they didn't have like a proven research track record.
Right.
So if you can't prove in the same like how a university wants you to prove that you have the facility to have experienced research, they kind of want you to do a master's to
Hmm.
prove that before they commit all these resources and money into funding your PhD.
Yeah. I think it's mainly just knowing yourself, like how you deal with like the more like research independent sort of side of
Mhm.
things. That bachelor degrees can't necessarily like provide. I think it's like depending on what you do during the bachelor degree. So like a PhD is like a multi-year sort of commitment of being in this different environment compared to like how you would have had during your undergrad for a bachelor's. And so having a master's can be like allows you to dip your toe into this sort of area that you may not necessarily have had the opportunity to before.
Also, this is also under the caveat we can only speak
Mhm.
about maths PhD
This
programs.
is true.
Yeah.
So if the question is about any other subject which is not a maths
Yeah,
PhD program in the UK probably, then
it may not be
yeah.
completely
Mhm.
transferable,
I think
but
your best of all these things is just if you find somebody who's doing research you like the look of at a whatever institution, just send them an email to be like,
Mm.
I've like read your work. I think your work is interesting. I'm not necessarily interested in pursuing a PhD at this time, but I'm sort of working on some of these problems because I find them interesting. Have you got any other resources you could point me at? Is there like any books or resources? And I think most academics you'd want to work with would be if someone is approaching me like, I'm really interested in your stuff. Can you point me in a direction to find out
Mm.
more about this stuff? Most academics would be like, oh yeah, that sounds really, really
Like
interesting.
everybody
yeah,
loves getting an email
yeah, it's
saying
just
that,
like
like, yeah, And to be fair, I think it's probably more of a meme that I've seen where it's like saying about how much journals charge for like
Mm.
paying for these papers. But if you actually just email the authors and say, would you
Yeah.
mind sending me that? Most of the time,
Yeah.
authors would probably happily send
I
you
think
a PDF.
I've read stuff like where people like oh yeah, they're not meant to, but most academics would just email you the
Yeah,
paper.
yeah.
Mm. And then I'll say, after just 5 days of internet surfing, I got a perfect answer here in minutes. It looks like having a mentor and an experienced pro isn't just a nice to have, it's essential. So yeah, I'm finally seeing why a PhD might actually be worth it.
Oh, I'm glad that we could help,
Yeah.
and thank you for asking.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that was a really interesting
really was.
discussion
Yeah.
that we haven't really had before.
No.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I think there are merits to both, and it definitely depends on
Yeah.
who you are as a person.
Hmm.
But I mean, we're biased, but I think we'd all advocate for having that support network.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And just resources. Like
Mm.
I think very few people. I think I wouldn't personally ever be able to like mentally work and also be able to put in significant hours doing research.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Happy to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
It's my turn next.
Yeah.
Oh.
Speaking of PhDs.
Yes, yeah. I mean, so I think last time we did like a catch up, I just finished confirmation,
Whoa.
which was like the halfway point. Or I think I'd submitted confirmation reports and I'd still got the
Okay.
Bible to go.
Sure.
But yeah, so I mean, since then, I've definitely got. I think that was kind of like I felt that was like a major stopping point where I kind of went
Mm-hmm.
and just had a complete panic about like I'm now halfway through, and there was this pressure to like the next 18 months needs to be good work. And then I've just had the same panic again when I've come back from conferences after having a bit of time off. And in my head, I've now got, there's only a year left. Like, panic. Everything I need to do needs to be good work. So that's an ongoing cycle for me. And I'm sure that will happen every month for the foreseeable future. I did, I managed to get stuck in, like, again, after confirmation, we were working on, like, the second sort of part of my project. So again, I think my vision is that my PhD will be in 3 parts. They'll all be related and they'll all still be models of like fish movement, but they'll take place at different scales.
Okay.
So that's kind of what the plan is. Whether that happens or not, And in an ideal world, that's the plan. So we've got the paper that is looking at the population dynamics, and that's under review. And so then what I've been doing since confirmation is like looking at what we call like the mesoscale,
Okay.
which is basically just in between the macro and the
Okay.
micro.
Right. Okay.
So rather than looking at like population dynamics or like what happens between 2 individuals, it's kind of looking at like a subsection. So it's like the population scale would be like a whole river and like a whole population of fish over like generations.
Okay.
And then the individual, like the micro scale, would be like looking at a single pool or a single section of the river, and on a short time scale, how do the animals interact with each other?
Right.
So whereas what I'm kind of looking at the minute has been like, well, what if we take just like a chunk of the river, and there's a few pools, and they can hop between them.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've ended up delving into like SDEs.
Whoa.
And I told my supervisors, I was like, no, I've never done that before. Don't talk to me about them. Don't want to. It's scary. And then I think I've been slowly walked into somehow doing SDEs.
Oh my goodness.
I think my supervisor was very careful in like never actually telling me that it was an SDE until it was too late.
Betrayal.
Yeah. But we're hoping that, again, I've sort of slowly gotten back into things. We're going to have a meeting next week, actually, to be like, all right, we're 3 of us are going to sit down and sort of kind of discuss where we're at, make a plan. But they seem to think, again, that the second section now could be on its way to a paper, which is quite nice. But then, given how long it took us to get to the last paper, I'm now like, right, I don't have that length of time. So I kind of need to know, it's like, is it writable? Is it draftable by Christmas? Because then that's like a good time frame. So we'll see. But it's like when I say things out loud like that, it feels hard not to be optimistic. On like a day-to-day basis, I am anything but optimistic. So Yeah, yeah.
Exciting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
New for me, yeah. I'm in my final like 2 weeks or something. This is fine. Writing big old thesis dot tech. You know, I don't know. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. I've had a lovely time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my research has been far more sort of like exploratory. I know some people they go into a PhD and their project's like, okay, we'll think about this precise thing and study, these sort of properties or whatever, or this kind of algorithm. Whereas mine is more like, oh, here's like an optimization problem.
Let's run with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like read papers if something you like appears, then read that more and try and do something with that. So I've done like some very theoretical stuff, which I never thought I would ever be
Mm-hmm.
a theory person. I thought I'd always be just like, writing down an algorithm and then just implement it, not caring about any proofs to do with it. Yeah, yes, heuristic algorithm.
For applied
Exactly,
mathematicians.
exactly. But no, I do like prefer like lemma proposition theorem thing, and I loved it. Had a wonderful time. So now I identify as partly theory,
Partly theory, you're
partly
part theory,
yeah,
part.
part what was it? Implementation,
Okay.
I'd say. Um, but so one project was theory. The recent project is coming up with some spicy new algorithm thing that people haven't done before, which is very cool. Um, and yeah, like I don't feel smart. I feel like, I see other people at the end of their PhDs, like, wow, like you're at the end of your PhD, you must have like near infinite knowledge. And it's like, no, no.
Well, you're the cutting edge of research of one very thing.
I'm like, a world expert on this particular thing. It's like, oh, interesting.
I don't think it's very easy to like look at other people and go, "You're really smart," when you also know nothing about the field.
Mm,
Like I suppose I would like if I need like sort of inverse problems, machine learning, I'd be like Seb's my guy.
yeah, yeah.
Like that's the thing is like and but you do know your stuff.
Yeah.
You
Kat
do.
says the imposter syndrome is imposter syndroming.
Yes.
Then hello, Kat.
Always.
Hi.
Always.
Um, but yeah, like I don't know. I feel like maybe after a couple of months after confirmation, I feel like that's where like my feeling cleverness sort of plateaued.
Oh, I reason peak. I
I like to think I've maintained. I've maintained.
It's to know though that it did grow
Yes,
during the first
definitely.
part of the PhD, and then maybe it's just that's maybe your confidence levels peak,
Mm.
so it's just kind of a
And I think it's mainly I think that the biggest way that I have grown since then is probably like in my like communication of
Mm.
maths and like in like my delivering of talks, and just like design of talks. I feel like that's definitely a way that I've continued
Mhm.
to grow, which is nice to see. Um, but yeah, like my supervisors are both in different countries right now, so
Or writing up on your own.
yeah, I mean they're in email
Okay.
contact, yeah. Except one is on annual leave, so they're not. uh, but but I feel because of that, it feels like a very like far away sort of abstract like notion of having to write something. Whereas if they were still here and went to in-person meetings, there'd be a far more like literally like physical sort of like
Mhm.
consequences, but not having written stuff up and things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you said like a couple of weeks. Is that a hard deadline for you, or is that no? Okay. Okay.
No. So I'd like to emotionally be done the end of this month.
I was emotionally done 6 months ago, Seb. So
Yeah, because I'm then going on like in from the start of September through to like mid-October. I'm doing like a research visit,
Mhm.
like in like the Netherlands on like just a very completely different topic, well, semi-related, of like machine learning, I guess. So I kind of want to be like cleansed from
Yeah.
PhD
Yeah.
for that. Um, And yeah, then there's some loose plans on having a Vive at the end of November.
Hmm.
But in terms of like actual deadlines, like I have my funding ends end of this September,
Okay.
which I'm treating as like the hard deadline.
Yeah.
But the actual like doctoral college themselves don't require me to be done until like next year September.
Yes.
But ideally, I'm done next year.
Which I suppose is good to have a vague idea in your head, but not putting the pressure on yourself of having like absolute fixed dates. So yeah.
Yeah.
Do not like sort of it's like, I remember my first conversation with somebody was with like when I first joined, like 2 years ago. I had a conversation with you, Sarah, being like, "Oh, so when the classic when are you done?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh, I've got another 2 years." So I think that's just like I feel or something. And then they're like, "No, I'm actually only a third through the research." I'm like, "Oh no, the new cohort that's coming in at a position to me when I was to say." There's like Vince like. So put together and seems nothing was I don't.
Gosh. But no, I feel like I'm on track.
Yeah.
You know, I've written some chapters. I don't really know what. I almost feel like I haven't done enough for a PhD. Like I don't know. It's also I haven't fully read other people's PhDs,
I don't
so
think
I don't
anyone.
know
Yeah.
what.
To be fair, I don't think anybody's really read anybody else's
Yeah.
PhD, including examiners.
It's so subjective. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. Every PhD is going to be different, and you can't compare yourself to other people. Like you've published 2 papers.
So I've published one PhD
Yeah.
paper and then 2 non-PhD papers.
Oh, okay. So the non-PhD can't go in your thesis.
No,
Right. Okay.
no.
Okay.
They're also not really related to it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, one is semi-ish.
But I think you've got more than enough.
Yeah.
And it's about like quality. It's about whether it's novel. And like you say, if you've developed a new algorithm that nobody else has thought of before, it's novel research. It's yeah.
So we do have like a draft of the algorithm paper.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, maybe I should focus on the thesis more than the paper.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think this is a sensible thing to do.
Yeah.
So
you do it traditionally or by
Traditionally.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are like the 2 main modes. Like traditionally, where you just write a book basically. And then there's like the
thesis by publication.
publication where you can have some things that are like either have been published or like in like a very publishable sort of format.
Which is like 3 novellas in a trench coat.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a set of short stories.
Yeah. And basically you just copy and paste them directly as they would appear in like the publication and just write a few things between to connect it all together. But yeah, I'm just writing a book.
Okay.
Yeah.
You chose the book.
Yeah.
Okay. But as you got the research visit in the Netherlands, that's like a little bit of a buffer for you, and then job afterwards. You're hoping to stay in academia.
Yes, I'm intending on staying in academia. So yeah, just applying for postdocs and hoping to get one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see.
You're confident enough.
Yes.
On your top trump card, you've got at least a 7 in competency.
No, this is accurate. Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm open to pretty much anywhere in the world, I guess, for doing a postdoc. So it's just getting one.
Yeah, and like there's got to be one out there. I think you're not limiting yourself by location.
No.
At the end of the day, so it's just finding the right research for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, you will do.
So if anybody's got a postdoc out there for sale,
I am on the market.
He is fully house trained.
Yes.
Can recommend. Yeah. Would make a very good postdoc.
Very good.
Yeah. Although that means that you will be leaving us,
This
which
is
is
true.
very sad.
This is true. So this is like my last stream.
Oh no. We should have got like, I was about to say, hats
Essentially,
Party Pop would be big.
Party Pop was in my office. Yeah, I didn't think of that. But no, I mean, maybe we can invite you back.
As a guest.
Yeah. This is the part where Kat says that where's her invitation first. But no, so it's very sad that you will be leaving us, but we know that you'll go on to do great things. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Woof.
Oh, jeez.
Good.
Oh.
Oh, I'd start a rival gang with Cat. I'd be interested in this. Yes. Okay.
Rival behind the research.
Yeah. Ooh, intrigue.
But then we'd get the OG credit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Even though Cat was the OG, and
Be like a spin-off show.
I'm now trying to like the West Side Story as opposed to behind the research versus another.
What?
Like like the two gangs, West Side
Oh,
Story,
okay.
Jets
Jets.
versus the
the
Sharks.
Sharks, Jets. Okay.
Okay.
We've now descended into a point of conversation that
Yeah.
probably indicates we should think about ending
I
the stream.
think so. I
Um,
think it's like 17 past 3.
okay,
It's a time.
Yeah, it is a
Yeah,
time.
it's about an hour.
Strong time.
yeah, but I mean, okay, so we know what is coming up for you, sort of in the near future. Henry, what's the plans for you?
Conference in September.
Yeah, and then confirmation is like your
Confirmation, yeah,
next-
so yeah. So confirmation is what, like 10 months away now? It's April.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, so hopefully big conference in September. Start writing our blocking out paper by Christmas.
Mhm.
Turn whatever mess that is into some kind of presentable confirmation report. Do it either live thesis or do a PhD. Easy.
When you put it online. Oh.
And what about yourself?
Yeah, so maybe paper.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I think need to plan out the next year. And try not to panic about it. Basically, is this
Yeah.
is the plan? We're not going to panic. That needs to be number one on my to do list, like all day, every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Step one of the plan: don't panic.
Don't panic.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's an excellent plan.
I agree.
So yeah. People keep telling me that I've got loads of time, and I'm going to try and listen to them.
I think, like, in terms of, like, if you measure how productive you are times time, your like productivity and like competency is only increasing.
In theory, yeah.
So, in like, you could argue that you actually have like at least half your competent time left.
Maybe. Yeah.
So you're actually only halfway through.
Yeah. I think it's just like confirmation is just it's a nice kind of mini deadline in middle where it's like, and then now it's like, no, there's nothing until the abyss of like.
I definitely have found that
thesis.
like it's a lot helpful. I give myself like actual deadlines of this thing needs to happen by oh yeah, well, it's a lot better knowing that like okay, I need to write this, do work, so I've got something to present in September, and I think I'll find something for like a deadline for December. I'll cook up like test.
Like, well, then if you want to draft your paper, you can
yeah,
have done that
like tell a
Christmas.
collaborator that I'm going to write the draft for you by December.
Yeah.
So then like I've got some amount of like external, you have to get it done because somebody's like relying on you to do something.
But yeah, so big plans for the future.
Indeed.
But yeah, so I think thank you everyone who tuned in. Thank you for coming and asking us questions and for listening to us prattle on about PhD life. We will be back with another Meet the People stream in a couple of weeks' time. So if you want to, you can look at our social media. That is usually where we update or let people know about any upcoming streams. Yes, just down there. But yeah, so then, and we'll have more in the future. Yeah, I think that's all to say.
Yep.
So we will see you very soon.
She'll have holiday.
Yes, holiday.
Bye.